Please do share your name and the country or place from where you're from today in the Zoom chat. It'd be great to get the range of our network and see where everyone is coming from. We are a global community today, and I now hand over to Dewey to take us through our event agenda for you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, let us just look into our agendas for today.
Yeah, apologies, there we are. It's just a bit slow from my end. We'll get there. Over to you, Dewey.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Let's just have a look into our agendas for today, in which we'll be having an overview of Mobile Arts for Peace, our findings from phase 1, which includes the youth-led small grant projects. We'll also have a look at the launch of our medium grant project in phase 2, which is in all 4 countries that includes Nepal, Kyrgyzstan, Rwanda, and Indonesia. We'll also look into the 2 large grant projects in phase 2 that are co-producing monitoring, evaluation, and learning with youth researcher. Then we'll have an amazing discussion with UNESCO, and then we'll have our closing remarks.
Yeah, lovely. So thank you, Dewey. Before we dive in, we would like to acknowledge our MAP funders. So that's the Arts and Humanities Research Council and the Global Challenges Research Fund. A few housekeeping reminders before we get going. Your mics should already be muted, but if not, please keep them muted. We will channel our engagement through the Zoom chat. Screenshots will also periodically be used. So again, if you don't want to be in a screenshot, please keep your camera turned off. However, we're also really happy to see people's faces. So do as you feel you're most comfortable with. In addition, the event will be recorded, as we've said, and pre-recorded clips may be published on our website post the event. There are multiple interpretation channels, so please click on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen, and you can then pick the language you require: English, Kyrgyz, Kinyarwanda, Nepali, and Basa. There is also a Jamboard, so for any IT operational issues, please put your question into the Jamboard, which is via the link shared in the chat. Thank you very much, Kula. Kula will be monitoring and responding to these. So the idea is that anyone with non-presentation discussion points, but IT or support issues, goes to the Jamboard link where Kula will support you. Having said that, please, as you're listening to presentations, post your questions in the Zoom chat. The intention is that the chat function is therefore being used for the topics being discussed. Thank you to Anna, who will be collating the themes from questions and feeding those back in the Q&A points. So please do engage. If we aren't able to get to your question during the session, we will be posting a blog and responding to those questions post the event. Thank you to Raji for timekeeping, as we're hoping to keep this to time, this event. And finally, Dewey, back over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. So before getting started, I would like to invite those of us on Twitter to use today's hashtag, which is #EverydayPeaceBuilding. And now let's get started. Now, to give an overview of Mobile Arts for Peace, we have Professor Ananda Brit, the principal investigator of MAP and the professor at theater at College of Arts, University of Lincoln, United Kingdom.
Thank you, Juhi. It gives me great joy to see all of you here today to mark another milestone as we embark on phase 2 of the MAP project. I see many familiar names, faces from the start of our scoping visits in 2018 to new friends and partners, so welcome. We're now in the final year of our 4-year project with a focus on working alongside youth researchers and partners to amplify the great research that's already been conducted in phase 1, using arts-based approaches to communicate the needs and issues of children and youth to decision makers and policymakers, and to find solutions together as we inform curriculum and policy. Slide. We started our project by first exploring existing needs to see how our research could be useful, and then worked with local artists, educators, young people, civil society workers, decision makers, and policymakers to develop the MAP methodology. In each country, a version of the MAP training manual for peace building was co-produced and implemented through training of trainers and youth camps to embed MAP into both formal and non-formal spaces. Numerous MAP clubs were embedded into formal and non-formal spaces such as schools, community centers, and youth researchers created over 32 youth-led research projects as part of our small grants initiative across all of the 4 countries. We have also been working with the University of Northampton to track the social impact of MAP. That has led to the publication of 2 social impact reports that are being launched today, and you'll hear about those reports from Rich, who's the next presenter. Today, you'll be introduced to the 8 medium grant projects, 2 in each country, that have been awarded to develop a 2-way form of communication between children and young people and decision makers and policymakers using arts-based approaches, such as comics, films, performances, dances, music, and drumming. We are very happy to be working alongside our partner, UNESCO, on this journey as well. Finally, we have 2 large grant projects led by University of Edinburgh and University of Northampton, who will be conducting monitoring, evaluation, and learning with our Youth Advisory Board, youth researchers, and our partnering organizations across the medium grant projects. Slide. To give you an overview of the project to date, we've worked with over 152 partner organizations, delivered 519 engagement activities, and produced 147 artistic outputs. In terms of informing curriculum, we've been mapping local approaches to informing curriculum with, as an example, the youth clubs in Nepal. We've been developing youth leadership, for example, working with over 25 female youth researchers as a part of one of the medium grants in Nepal. We've been guiding national structures, such as working alongside the national child forums to inform the use of arts-based approaches to engage marginalized young people in Indonesia, and also working alongside the Ministry of Education in Kyrgyzstan and the Rwanda Education Board in Rwanda. Slide. We've been informing policy by exploring the role of cultural forms for dialogue and conducting policy roundtables in which we'll be partnering with UNESCO over this next year to explore how to engage policymakers with young people in the 4 countries. Slide. Finally, we'd like to close also with some of our challenges and opportunities. So there's been a gender dimension to a lot of the issues and problems, as well as the need to engage high-level officials with arts-based methodologies, in which sometimes there might be a resistance or bias towards cultural forms or working alongside the value of art making. Likewise, the idea of the youth as experts, and that the issues are of importance to be explored at a national level. We're trying to find this sweet spot between formal and non-formal modes of communication and policy informing structures. We're also trying to explore both the idea of adapting local cultural forms and adapting MAP to the local context, while it's being embedded in national structures, in which sometimes that can make methods become a little bit more formalized and static. Additionally, we're engaging youth researchers and our youth advisory board members to design and implement our monitoring, evaluation, and learning strategy, in which we're finding that there are numerous learning opportunities on that journey as well. Now I'd like to pass it back to Juhi to introduce our next speaker, and thank you all very much for your listening and being on this journey with us.
Thank you so much, Ananda. Now to share the findings from our phase 1, we have Professor Richard Heisenberg, who is the principal investigator for monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Richard is the director of Institute for Social Innovation and Impact at the University of Northampton. Over to you, Richard.
Thanks, Juhi, and thank you for such a kind introduction. And good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. My name's Richard Heisenberg. As Juhi said, I'm from the University of Northampton, and I'm here today really just to give a very brief overview of the small grants research that we did. And at the end of my presentation as well, we'll also have a video, a vlog that was produced by Haikal, one of the youth researchers in Indonesia, who I think at the moment is struggling to join. I'm hoping he can get on before I finish talking, but if not, we can still play you the video that he's produced. So the main aim of the research was effectively to understand effectively the impact of the MAP Small Grants program and what it was doing for the young people, what benefits it was bringing, but also more widely, what benefits was it bringing to the community, to families, and also around policy in those core areas that Ananda has just talked about. We have those 3 research questions listed there, specifically what outputs were delivered through the small grants projects, what outcomes for beneficiaries and stakeholders were delivered through the small grants projects. And, there we're thinking about young people's well-being or peace building in the community, and what impacts were delivered at a wider level, and particularly with a focus on impacts in the curriculum, in school and youth and community work, and again at that sort of regional and national policy level as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of the research methodology, it culminated in 5 steps. The first was a literature review, and this was based very much on the work that had happened in the phase 1 research that covered the period before the small grants, that 2019 to 21 period that Ananda was just talking us through. We obviously looked at the existing data that was held within the programme, and one of the fantastic things I have to say about MAP is that there's such a wealth and breadth of arts-based methods that are being delivered by the young people that allow us to really understand the social problems that exist in communities and the ways that the young people and the MAP partners are looking to solve these through this arts-based peace-building approach. But we still did collect some of our own data, and the approach in the small grants research was purely qualitative. We had a mixed methods approach in the phase 1 research, but in this research, we focused just qualitatively. But you can see it was a massively in-depth project. 286 people were interviewed, young people, plus other stakeholders, including artists, teachers, parents, policymakers, etc. So a huge amount of data for us to work through, but again, really rich and allowed us to really understand the impact of MAP. We also held regular meetings with the in-country teams, providing progress updates, workshops, having presentations from the in-country teams, and all of this allowed us to produce our sort of final analysis and report and bring all of that data together into the findings that we'll go through now. So there's a few core areas I wanted to touch on. The first is in relation to the young people. So when we actually look at the impact here, the young people, they really benefited from upskilling in terms of, yes, building their confidence and their well-being, but also very much around their education, their employability, learning new skills, digital technology skills, public speaking, stuff that really is going to help them in developing their work moving forwards. It also really enabled them to reduce trauma, and particularly, we've got very traumatic experiences that the young people have gone through in the past. And you've been able to use the arts-based methods really gave them a process of being able to work through that trauma and to really help to overcome it with the support of their peers, their teachers, and other people in the community, and to bring the community together. And that's a key focus that we'll look on shortly as well. And very much around mental health impacts. We talk about well-being, but this trauma brings with it potentially serious mental health problems, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and other kinds of things. And really what we found from the data was that MAP really supported the young people to be much happier, much less anxious, and to really be able to process and cope with that trauma. There was also benefits for schools and teachers, and particularly with the curriculum, and that is such a key focus of the MAP programme. And we've seen strong changes to curriculum occurring across all of the countries, particularly in Kyrgyzstan and Nepal, but also in Rwanda and Indonesia. And we've seen the way that MAP supported the implementation of new practice and new teaching materials that were actually embedded within schools, based within the arts-based methods that were developed and utilised. And the way that actually it allows teachers to focus on arts-based methods as an alternative means of educational provision. And looking at how this actually works, not just in the school and in the curriculum, in the daytime lessons, but also in extracurricular work out of hours classes, youth clubs on weekends, and really working with the young people to support their education in these really new and innovative ways that are much more kind of engaging for young people than perhaps traditional curriculum. And then finally, in terms of the links to community, so the project was actually able to bring the young people and the teachers and the schools into the community. So through things like plays, discussion forums, forum theatres, we saw lots and lots of community engagement, and parents, community members and policymakers coming in and really understanding the social problems that the young people were seeing. Also community impacts, we look at the impact on the young people and in the schools, but actually we heard so much from parents and from policymakers. I didn't understand about these social problems. I didn't understand the way that the young people were perceiving this issue in the community or were worrying about it, and the solutions that they've got for it. So it brought the community together to co-produce ideas and solutions for change, to reduce things like community violence, gender-based discrimination, child labour, so many different areas that are hugely negative for people's quality of life. And actually MAP was able to really bring the communities together, and this problem tree image you see on the left from Rwanda, I just thought was a really amazing way that the young people kind of put together how they saw the issues in the community and the possible solutions. So it was very much about that dialogue building, creation of networks, development of empathy between different community groups, and that co-production, which I think is really, really important in these projects. It also produced policy impact, and the young people worked with policymakers, with their teachers, with youth workers, a whole variety of different people to actually produce policy briefs. We had 16 policy briefs, if I remember rightly, delivered across the small grants programs across the 4 countries. And these were actually submitted to policymakers, along with lots of infographic content and the arts-based materials. And the feedback that we got from the policymakers was that it really opened their eyes to the social problems, really opened their eyes to the changes that they wanted to bring about, in a way that perhaps an academic policy brief just would not have. This interactive, really, arts-based, image-based approach was something that was really easy for the policymakers to digest, and really kind of galvanise them to think that we need to work here to drive change. And it's also been the case through the international networks as well. So the MAP work that's going on with UNESCO, hopefully culminating in a conference later this year as well, to look at how we can demonstrate the best practice that has emerged from the project in terms of how you can deliver international development and peace building activities through arts-based methodologies. And I think that arts-based approach is what really puts MAP at that kind of state of the art in terms of international development practices. And finally, the power of arts-based methods. So, we've seen through some of the impacts that arts-based methods, yes, they develop community understanding of problems. Yes, they build empathy and cohesion. And yes, they drive wider impact through policy. But there's something that sits beneath all of that as well. And I think this arts-based approach is just something that, whether it's theatre, whether it's art, painting, drawing, whether it's music or videos, it's something that kind of speaks to everybody. It's extremely inclusive, and it's a great sort of methodology and set of methods for being able to bring the community together and to really kind of drive that positive change. Anyway, what we felt was that you know, you wouldn't just necessarily get to understand the impact of the program, you know, just from me talking about some of the research findings. So we wanted you to also see a vlog that's been produced. I don't know if Heikel's managed to join the call. I can't see the participant list, but if he hasn't, what I can say is we have a youth advisory board where once a month on a Saturday morning we meet with the young people and we work through the MAP program, the research they're going to do with us, and solutions. And Heikel had produced this video based on his experience and his peers' experience of the MAP program, and it absolutely blew me away. It's a fantastic video. I won't say any more. I will just let the MAP team put this up and play it, and I think it will speak for itself.
Great, thank you so much, Rich. Hala, you had a quick...
Yes, sorry. Yes, Richard said it's heavy rain in Jakarta and he broke his phone, so he can't join us. But is it okay if Indri set up the vlog? I also have copied the chat Heikel sent, but is it okay up the vlog?
Please,
Quickly?
yeah, please, Indri.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, please jump in, Indri.
Yes, Indri is here.
Wonderful. So what we'll do now is we'll play the vlog and then we'll come to a question and answer session. So it'd be wonderful for Rich and Indri to respond to any questions that come based on Rich's presentation and the vlog. So we hope you enjoy this vlog. It explains Heikel and Indri's experiences with MAP. Here we go.
Ini menjadi perjalanan terjauh kami.
Kami telah mengunjungi sebuah kota dengan menempuh jarak sekitar 13.000 km.
Dan dengan biaya 0 rupiah.
Kami berkunjung ke sebuah kota yang berada di bagian timur Inggris. Kota yang memiliki lingkungan dan kualitas udara yang bersih. Suhu udara yang dingin.
Kayak masuk kulkas ya?
Bangunan-bangunan bersejarah. Juga sebagian besar wilayahnya adalah universitas. Universitas Lincoln menjadi tujuan utama kami datang ke sini untuk menghadiri konferensi Mobile Art for Peace.
Mobile Art for Peace, bahasa Indonesianya seni yang bergerak perdamaian. Ini adalah kolaborasi di Indonesia antara University of Lincoln di Inggris dengan Universitas Politik Indonesia Atmajaya di Jakarta. Tujuan dari MAP adalah memberikan masukan bagi kurikulum nasional dan kebijakan anak muda untuk membangun damai.
Jauh sebelum memulai perjalanan ke sini, kami juga telah menjalani proses yang cukup panjang. Mulai dari menganalisis permasalahan sosial yang ada di Indonesia, lalu mengemasnya dalam bentuk karya seni, dan kemudian kami gunakan sebagai alat berdiskusi untuk menjadi sebuah solusi.
Ini tidak hanya diimplementasikan di Indonesia, tapi juga di 4 negara.
Dan setelah melewati proses yang cukup panjang, tiba saatnya kami bersama delegasi dari 3 negara lainnya mendapatkan kesempatan untuk bertatap muka dengan bahasa
Namaste, Manekal Nato, Kristen Temple.
budaya dan permasalahan sosial yang berbeda-beda. Perbedaan yang kami miliki tidak menjadi hambatan bagi kami, justru menjadi sebuah keragaman dalam berkolaborasi.
Konferensi ini kami selalu berdiskusi, berbagi cerita dan pengalaman, bertukar pikiran dan pendapat. Tujuannya untuk menindaklanjuti proses yang sudah kami jalani. Menariknya, di sini kami dapat menyampaikannya dalam bentuk apapun. tidak terpaku dengan bahasa yang mudah. Yang terpenting, di sini kami saling menerima perbedaan dan pendapat dengan baik. Perjalanan kami tidak berhenti sampai di sini.
Setelah ini, kami akan kembali terus berkolaborasi dari negara kami masing-masing.
Wonderful. Well, we hope that you enjoyed that. And thank you so much to all the work from MAP Indonesia, Haikal and Indri for making that. We'll now open up the floor to anyone that had any questions based on Rich's presentation, as well as perhaps the vlog and the overview of the November Gathering conference that happened last November at all. So I wonder, Anna, if you've been able to capture any questions or any themes emerging in the chat.
I need to say that it seems like there is no question at the moment. There are many comments about what's a wonderful video, what other vlog we've got. So maybe if somebody wants to speak and ask the question, because at the moment in the chat there is no questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the comments on the vlog. I know the team worked really hard on that. Perhaps I'll just invite quickly before we move on to the next section, perhaps as Indri has joined us today and is somewhere in Jakarta at this moment battling through the heavy rains. Indri, did you perhaps have a reflection that you would like to share on your experience in the November conference? If you're able to join us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome, please.
Okay, so this video is about our journey in MAP. This is first journey in Lincoln in November, and I really glad that I can meet another team from another country. And I really want to say thank you to Haikal, Kak Harla, and Kak Giselle because they helped me so much. Of course, and also to Rwanda team, Kyrgyzstan team, and Nepal team that give me the video and want to show in this vlog. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. That's really wonderful to hear from you. Thank you, Indri. Okay, so we will now move on to our next section.
Could I ask one quick question?
Yes, please. Hello, David.
Hello. Sorry I was late. I found the navigating the Eventbrite a more not as bright an experience as I expected. So, but I'm pleased to be here. I wanted to just ask Richard a question about the presentation you did, Richard, which was fantastic. I've been working with a group of teachers in the Gambia, and we've been producing participant policy briefs. You know, as you were talking about, not the usual, but one-pagers, as we call them. And one of the things we did was to identify which policymakers, if possible, we could engage with. In this case, it was teacher education in the ministry at local and regional level. And then we, a more difficult, more challenging aspect was to identify which policies we wanted to impact. And I just wondered whether, with the work you've been doing, whether you've identified particular individuals or policy teams, if you like, and particular policies that you would hope the MAP work would be able to influence in some way.
Thanks, David. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I agree. I think that you know, and we've talked about this in the MAP project, that you have so much more impact with these kind of much infographic interactive policy briefs than you ever do with the academic stuff that just sends everybody to sleep when they read it. It varied for us across the 4 countries, so it depended on the country teams and the links that they had. But actually, to be honest, most of the country teams were quite well linked in, both at the local level with policymakers in terms of the, you know, the towns, so the town council, the mayor, etc., but also at a national level with the ministries, particularly Ministry of Education or whatever the name for that particular ministry is in each country. Now, curriculum policy impact was the main focus, and of course that can be quite a long burn process. You know, to get changes in the curriculum can be a 5 or 6 year thing. But we did see, particularly for instance in Kyrgyzstan, significant impact in terms of the way that they were actually starting to embed, for instance, youth clubs and youth club membership into national curriculum policy in Kyrgyzstan. So we saw some of those impacts, but it very much depended on their own prior links. Rather than, I would say, necessarily identifying people, it was more about who was actually known to the MAP teams and who they felt would have the influence in these areas, I guess. And at a local level, bringing those policymakers actually into the MAP event, so it's not just an impact brief that lands on their desk. They actually come to the theatre or they come to see the arts. So yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Wonderful, thank you, and thank you very much for the question. That's great. Okay, as we now start to begin the part of the event where we start introducing our 8 new projects, over to you, Dewey.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much, Rich, for your presentation, and Indri for this wonderful vlog. So moving forward, we have, as mentioned earlier, we have 2 new medium grants project in each countries. So starting from Nepal, the first one we have Intergenerational Dialogue. The partner organization leading this is Karkhana Samuha, and the principal investigator is Mr. Sakar Purasaini. So over to you, Sakar.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Julie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe, wherever you are. My name is Sakar, as Julie mentioned, and I'm with Karkhana Samuha. And our medium grant is called Intergenerational Dialogue through co-created participatory arts-based curriculum. And, you know, I think all the key things that we are interested in and thinking about are in the name itself. There's a lot of sort of making together between young people and our research team, but also between young people and teachers in schools, and between the young people involved in our project and their peers across the country. So the organizations that are involved is Karkhana Samuha, the Kathmandu University School of Education, Midwest University, and a youth club, which is centered around a particular school called Janapriya, but it covers 9 other schools in that geography. We're also working with 3 amazing partners that are helping us recruit. So a lot of these are scholarship funds or, you know, women leadership, women mentorship organizations. And so they're helping us build very inclusive YARs, we call them, Youth Advisory Research Council. So I just wanted to jump into, you know, how we do things. So this sort of think, make, play, improve, TMPI cycle is sort of at the heart of everything Karkhana Samuha does, and it fit well with the bigger remit of MAP to include young people and to build more participatory curricula. That's sort of what we are focused on. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So what we're really looking at is 2 things, right? We're looking at how can tools from theater specifically, but artistic tools more generally, be used as a means of dialogue. And we're also looking to build awareness among national experts who are involved in curriculum development, that they actually have such tools at their disposal. So if you could just go back a slide, please. Yeah. So, you know, what we're doing, where does that TMPI, Think, Make, Play, Improve come in, is we've been doing workshops with our Youth Advisory Council, and then they are going out to partner schools and doing similar workshops with their peers who are going out and trying to run the same workshops with their peers in school. So we have sort of a 3-layer thing, and as researchers, we are observing all the layers. Our young researchers are both trainers in one layer and observers when we actually end up going to the school. So next slide, please. One thing we found with so this is sort of a still image theater program we did. One thing we found that's really interesting with using theater is that in some ways it allows us to sidestep maybe some social conventions, that if you're in a room with your seniors, you give the floor to them much more to speak, you do a lot more listening. You know, it was mentioned earlier, it's difficult sometimes for policymakers to see youth as experts. But with theater, we're finding that the young people, through their acting, you know, through their performances, are able to provoke curiosity. They are able to the policymakers are actually sitting and listening attentively. And it's generating a lot of conversation without either party having to assert status in the room. And that's turning out to be a very nice sort of feature. We would love for all of you listening to get more involved with us. So these are the ways you can get involved. You can connect our IRs to other youth in schools, in youth clubs. You can connect them to policymakers, or if you're a policymaker yourself, come engage with us. We are looking for a lot more artists to engage with them. And of course, you can always join us for our discussions. My email is right there, as is our organizational Twitter. We hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sakar. And I am now opening the floor to everybody out there. If you have any questions for Sakar in terms of his presentation, now is your moment. I will come back to Anna again, who's our amazing Zoom chat question coordinator, and ask you, Anna, if we've got any questions that have come in the Zoom chat. Unfortunately, we're needing to kind of catch up a bit on time, so we'll just look to the Zoom chat questions. If we're unable to answer any questions, we will be doing a blog post the event and we'll put some responses. Anna, did we have any for Sakar?
No, we don't have questions. We've got comment about the very wonderful presentation. Thank you, Sakar. And it seems like there are some problem with somebody can't hear. Probably I will put it in a Jamboard and hopefully it will be possible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so that's following the Jamboard link where there's a person dedicated to any IT support issues. But thank you for contributing. Okay, so what we will do is we will move on to our next Medium Grant project. Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much, Sakar, for this wonderful presentation. Now we have our second Medium Grant project in Nepal and Rwanda, which is Picturing Past, Present, and the Future. The partner organization leading this is the University of Brighton. The principal investigator and the presenter for today is Dr. Marlon Moncrief.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Nice to meet everybody. It's a pleasure for me to contribute to this MAP stakeholder meeting today. I'm Dr. Marlon Moncrief. I'm based at the School of Education at the University of Brighton in the UK. I'm the principal investigator of the research project entitled Picturing the Past, Present and the Future in the Imagination and Dreams and Journeys taken by young women in Nepal and Rwanda. The organisations involved in this unique research are the University of Brighton, UK, the Janakal Women Awareness Society of Nepal, and Uyisengeni Imanzi of Rwanda. Next slide, please. So, about the project. Significance of this study is sharing how culturally embedded proverbials in both countries have been passed across from generation to generation in articulating a negative portrayal of women's representation in society at all stages of their lives. We see from number 1 on this slide, our study begins with data collection in review and reflection of this by examining the power of cultural reproduction, of cultural proverbials, using these as a cross-cultural comparative stimuli for the study, and meeting with a key objective, which is to support women in communicating the social challenges they're faced and their aspirations for the future. At a young age, young girls are taught by society that they do not matter as much as boys. Thus, they internalize this understanding and it leads to stereotypes that can impede emancipation. Girls and women in Nepal may not partake in a journey to development with those discrepancies. So our study aims to actualize and exemplify the notion of mobile arts for peace. Women partake in journeys of reflection, development and transformation through art. Hence the title of our project, picturing the past, the present and the future in the imaginations, dreams, journeys taken by young women in Nepal and Rwanda. We see from slide number 2 that as part of the data collection, young women will meet and take journeys using bicycle or on foot to find safe spaces to relax and to reflect and to discuss those cultural proverbials that frame their lives, that frame the lives of their mothers, their grandmothers, and themselves. They will take further journeys into their own imaginations, sharing with each other to articulate their aspirations for the future. For number 3 on this slide, you will see that the women's translations of their imaginations will come through the central arts-based methods of the project. So for Nepal, this will be by Mithila arts, and for Rwanda, this will be by Imigogo arts. Both are traditional arts forms that are unique to women. The transmission of women's imaginations and aspirations through these arts forms is to cause disruption to the transmission of the culturally embedded proverbials, which perpetuate gender inequality. And you see from slide number 4 that we intend to conduct public and community engagement in sharing these activities and the artistic outputs across Rwanda and Nepal by a public exhibition across schools, youth clubs, and social media. Policymakers will be invited to advance our discussions of social policy and challenge to the discourses of educational policy as well. Next slide, please. So to summarize, the project exposes the way in which culturally embedded proverbials in both countries have been passed across generation to generation, articulating a negative portrayal of women's representations in society at all stages in their life, from birth to death. Being involved in the Mobile Arts for Peace, our study aims to actualize and to exemplify women partaking journeys of reflection, development, transformation. The communication of this transformation through women's translations of these imaginations and aspirations will come through the central arts-based methods of the project, Imigogo arts and Mithila arts. Next slide, please. So here's how to get involved and how to find out more. Do make contact with me and my team. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marlon. Anna, any questions, quick questions, as we want to honor the time for the next set of countries, but any quick questions?
No quick question to Marlon, but while we are waiting, maybe somebody can text. I would like to read, if you don't mind, that Adam said to Sakar presentation that he thinks that's a very interesting project, and it will be important for you to give opportunity to the young people to lead the dialogue process and ensure they document the evidence from their perspective. Yes,
yeah, lovely. Thank you very, very much.
No questions so far. Yes, so we
reflection. Wonderful. Okay, not to worry at all. We will move on. So thank you very much, Dewey. Back over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Marlon. Now we have another 2 medium grants project from Kyrgyzstan. First, we have the Dialogue Through Arts. The partner organization leading this is the Foundation for Tolerance International, and the principal investigator and presenter for today is Tajika Sabdaova. So sorry if I pronounce your name wrong.
Thank you, Juhi. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's really an honor to be today together with all of you. I'm Tajika. I'm from Foundation for Tolerance International, and it's pleased for me to present our project. We are working with my project from the beginning, and we have been done some activities so far. I will highlight some of them as a key directions for us, and I will also briefly say what we are going to achieve, and hopefully we'll be successful with our continuous work. So as Ananda said, we are trying to raise voices of young people and promote youth well-being issues to decision makers at local and national levels within my project, using different art forms, including, for example, in Kyrgyzstan, we use forums, etc., video production, photo voice, comics writing, along complementary to our national traditional cultural forms of art. And so far in Kyrgyzstan, we achieved some good results, especially establishing map use clubs in different regions, including south, north parts, which have really diverse conflict issues or peace building issues in these communities. And we built a capacity of young people to conduct field research, engaging their peers. So we conducted some activities on training on art forms and on art-based approaches. And the young people were allowed or have opportunity to conduct peer-to-peer research in their communities to identify key well-being issues which are they're concerned about. And they engage young, they engage peers and other young people around them to speak about, I guess we have identified more than different 30 youth well-being issues, and these young people were able to identify, analyze them and prioritize some issues they think which should be promoted to decision makers at local level. And these young people used these art forms to organize dialogue, and there are they have conducted, art-based events in local level to discuss at least 16 different issues they have identified during research, and they were able to write and develop so-called policy briefs. One of them, I guess, also mentioned Richard in his presentation. So these young people, for example, spoke about gender-based violent issues. They spoke about issues of young people who left by parents who are in migration. Some young people, they spoke about environment or climate-based change issues, which led to conflict in their communities. So we have done this kind of activities at local level, and now during ongoing phase, we are going to continue these efforts by engaging attention of regional and national-based decision makers, because we see a gap on improving national policy implementation. So we, in general, aim to achieve, hopefully, to change implementation of annual work plans of key government structures such as Minister of Interior Affairs or Minister of Education on working with gender-based violence, because this issue was identified as a key priority for these young people from 16 different communities across Kyrgyzstan. So this year we are going to promote GBV issue to national level decision makers, again conducting art-based communication platforms at regional level. We are going to have this kind of activities in April, and we aim to have another national level event in May. And hopefully we invite everyone from partnering countries such as Rwanda, Indonesia, and Nepal. Please visit Kyrgyzstan and support our activities with building communication with decision makers in Bishkek at national level. So, and to improve young people participation in policy change, we are going to approach, let's say, a new direction for us on building communication between young people and professionals or experts, independent and from official state bodies, just to discuss all recommendations came from regional and national based dialogue activities, and write, let's say, modest and simple and easy to implement recommendation for decision makers at national level to include into the action plans. So this is our expected hopefully results within my project for this year. And if you would like to learn more about us, please visit our social pages or write us. We are keen to share more information. So Sarah, trying to be really briefly, this is what we would like to share. And if there are any questions or comments, please.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tajika. It was wonderful to hear about your work. I think what we'll do is we'll move on to our next program, and then if there are any questions between the two projects or reflections, we'll come back to that. So thank you again kindly, Tajika. Okay, Jui, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for your presentation, Tajika. Now, moving forward, we have another medium grant project from Kyrgyzstan, which is the Magic of Theater. The partner organization leading this project is Jazz Kubat, and the principal investigator for this project is Nurlan. Lily is the presenter for the day.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Julie, for your yes. Our project Magic of Theater was created for children, to start with, could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So for now, more than 50 children and young adults are involved into the project, and our most important achievement, I would say, will be the collaboration with the School for Children from Disadvantaged Families, Orphans, or Abandoned Children. They seem to be very enthusiastic about this project. They're really involved and interested in taking participation into the stagecraft and acting lessons, public speaking, and everything that is related to drama, theater, arts. So one of our main goals would be bringing up the social issues that we have in Kyrgyzstan, such as children abuse and women abuse as well. We also will be doing the stage performances that will be based on fairy tales that are also related to social issues that we have in Kyrgyzstan. One of the tales will be Andersen tale, The Little Match Girl, which is basically about the abandoned child. And also there will be some stage shows that will be based on the playwrights that will be written by the participants themselves. We are doing the acting lessons, public speaking, and stage dancing to help the children to build their confidence in their stage presence. We also we hope to build the dialogue between parents and children, different generations dialogue as well. And we also are engaging parents. They also seem to be really enthusiastic about this. We are conducting right now the survey among parents and children to see how the theater change their maybe worldview, and maybe how can theater influence their life in the future. Theater tools can help children to understand how the world can be changed to in a good way. And for now, we are already starting the stage performances production. And we are keeping the acting lessons as well. So our project partners are Makal Art Foundation, which is a public foundation. And also we have collaboration with Ministry of Education in Kyrgyzstan, Ministry of Culture as well, and the Kyrgyz State Puppet Theater. Puppetry will be the main activity, and stage performances will be based on puppetry for very young children. Visual Art and Performance Public Association that kindly provided us the space in Bishkek, where we are doing our acting lessons and stagecraft. So if you have any questions, please.
Great, thank you so much, Layli. Really wonderful to hear about all the theatre and puppet work that's happening deep in Kyrgyzstan. It's a really interesting project. Anna, do we have any reflections or questions amongst everybody for us?
At the moment, I can't see any question to our wonderful Kyrgyz team, but there is the question from Harla to Marlon. If I can, I am happy to read it. So do we have time to go a little bit back, yeah?
I think very briefly, and then we'll also just say hi to Nurlan, who everyone can now see on their screen, who's the principal investigator of Magic Theatre. So fire away very quickly with that question, please, Anna.
Okay, there is question from Michelle, question and reflection, who wants to congratulate all multinational participants for such heartwarming, rich and far-reaching project led by young people in the arts. She's saying that arts practices being so under attack in many policy and educational arenas of the many possible overarching creative frameworks out there. I wondered if you use any of them to draw the project together. Okay. I don't know, it seems like it's a general question to everyone, not to a particular Kyrgyz team, yeah? So if any reflection on this to answer Michelle? How we use?
Yeah, I think that's it's a very rich question, isn't it? I wonder if at the moment, if any of our speakers would like to type a response back in the chat to Michelle's question. So perhaps just putting a title in response to Michelle, and then if any of our speakers so far might want to follow up in the chat, and we'll certainly ponder and think about that. And we'll get back to you in the blog. I think just before we move on to Rwanda, if we just want to acknowledge our principal investigator, Nurlan, there, and we'll give you a big wave, Nurlan. I don't know if you would like to say anything or if you're happy to move on. Are we good to move on? Yeah? Yep, okay, wonderful. So we thank you, Nurlan and Layli, for sharing the magic of theatre. We will now move on to the first of our Rwanda. Over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much for your presentation, Nurlan and Lily. Now let's dive into the medium grant project of Rwanda. The first one is called One Drum Per Girl. The partner organization leading this project is Women's Cultural Center, and the principal investigator for this project is Kiki. So over to you, Kiki.
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy to finally be able to join. So we will be working on the project called Giringoma, One Drum Per Girl. And our key partner is the first ever company of women drummers in Rwanda called Ingomasha Women Initiatives. And we are working in partnership also with Nofit State Circus for the juggling parts and the structuring of the organization. And this is being done in partnership with 10 primary and secondary schools in Huye district in the southern province of Rwanda. Next slide, please. Yes. So our project aim to address the persistent cultural gender stereotype and discriminatory patterns which prevent girls to perform non-traditional jobs in the creative industry and cultural industry, and therefore perpetuating inequalities and exclusion. So we are working in this, we are initiating girls in artistic areas where they are either few, absent, or excluded. And this includes the traditional dance, the warrior traditional dance, which is exclusively reserved to men. The juggling, because we drum with sticks, and we are juggling with those sticks. And in juggling, still the numbers of girls or women are really few. And also we are using songwriting and poetry because just to change the narratives, because most of the time the songs and poetry that exist were written and by men, mostly by men, and are not necessarily celebrating the power, the strength, the bravery of women, only the beauty. And we really want to change those narratives. And we are also going to use the letters
Oh no, it seems that Kiki may have frozen.
to communicate with policymakers in order to, when we are targeting, in order to participate, to let the girls participate. And our men too.
I think we've lost Kiki. But are you there, Kiki?
Do you hear me? I'm back.
You're back. Wonderful. The stage is all yours.
Yes. So through the program, one drum per girl, we are working with the MAP project is focusing on 250 girls in the 10 schools, and we will offer them through the year 80 sessions of artistic workshops in drumming, warrior dance, songwriting, poetry, creative writing, and juggling. The workshops are have already started, and every 3 months we will have a festival that will gather the 250 girls with policymakers, with other experts, with their parents, with their teachers, and with the trainers, so that through performances and conference, they discuss a roadmap toward gender equality and justice and girls' empowerment in the cultural and educational sector. We are also working on a video diary of 48 episodes that will be presented and co-hosted by the girls and in partnership with an adult, either a trainer or a teacher or a policymaker, so that it will serve as a platform for advocacy, for talent promotion, and knowledge sharing in negotiating gender justice in the cultural sector. And we also have, we will be recording, having audio records, audio capsules made of drums, of songs, of poems, and letters that will serve also to document in parallel with the book and share the journey of the program in Ngomasha and the finding of our research. So on the 3rd of April next year, next Monday, next week, we are officially launching the program with male activities, the monitoring, evaluation, and learning activities that will be led by the Youth Advisory Board. And on the 5th of May, the date needs to be confirmed by all the schools, the policymakers. We'll be having our first part of the Ngomasha Festival. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiki. That sounds such a fabulous. What we will do is we will move on to our second Rwanda, and then at the end of both presentations, we'll come back to any reflections, provocations even, or questions. Dewey, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much, Kiki, for the presentation. Now we have another medium grant project in Rwanda, which is the Visualizing Peace. Partner organization leading this is the University of Lincoln, and the presenter and the principal investigator for the project is Dr. Tom Martin. So over to you, Tom.
Hello, hi, thank you. It's really lovely to meet you all and just wonderful to be at this event and also to have the opportunity to hear about all the other projects. So I'm kind of glued to my screen hearing about all of these. So yeah, thank you all for sharing. So the Visualizing Peace project is made up of a core team from Lincoln, but also from the Kwetu Film Institute in Kigali and from CHAST, from Uyisenga Niyimanzi in Rwanda. Next slide, please. So I'm actually going to ask you to skip forward to the next slide, Sarah, and then come back to this one just to be difficult. So what we're doing with this project is building from work that was done in the first phase of MAP with the UNM, where they worked with school children to identify barriers to positive mental health and working with them exploring aspects of their mental health. And they produced a really intriguing and thought-provoking set of policy briefs. So what we're going to be doing is using filmmaking to return to those children and those policy briefs and co-produce a set of films from those. The idea being that through a process of co-production, the film students from Kwetu Film Institute can really bring those alive, bring those kind of thoughts and the learnings from that original phase of the project alive and produce an engaging set of films. So the children from the school will help come up with storyboards and scripts for the films and be engaged at various points in their production. And then what we'll do is we'll present those films at a symposium to which we'll invite NGOs, policymakers, and various other CSOs. And we'll have a discussion around those films in which the children that were part of phase one and also the film students from Kwetu will be present. The idea being that this creative process stimulates dialogue and enables the policymakers to engage with those young people and produce a set of outcomes that can hopefully have a long-lasting impact. Are you okay to go back to the previous slide, please, for me? That's super, thank you. So the reason we're taking this approach is to harness the creativity and culture associated with those young people and to activate those original learnings and to turn them into a dynamic, creative set of outcomes. We're also hoping to tour the films. So as a follow-up for the project, one of our partners, the Kwetu Film Institute, has a mobile cinema. So we're looking at being able to tour the films to schools and continue the project after this initial kind of policy aspect has taken place. We'll also produce articles and leave a training manual with Kwetu so they can carry on creating participatory made video with young people and having discussions around it and lengthen the impact of the project through that process as well. So if you'd like to hear anything else about our project or get involved, you can drop me an email. Contact details are there. We're about to set up all our social media pages for the project, so they'll be circulated in due course as well. And obviously our films as well will be available to watch at the end of the project. So hopefully you'll get to see the exciting material that we produce.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tom. And I love that idea of a mobile film. Was it a theatre or what? How did you describe it?
They've got an inflatable cinema screen that they can take it can operate in kind of quite remote environments. So the idea would be to take the discussion to various schools so we can kind of really deepen that impact and work with school children at different places. And I think it's really really important to treat the children as experts in their own reality. And I think that I'm expecting to learn a lot from those young people that we can perhaps take forward as well into different contexts outside of the specific context that they're in, and perhaps there's a lot that we can learn from as well for our own community and society.
Lovely, thank you for emphasizing the learning that's going two ways. And in terms of two-way communication, we'll be speaking with Dr. Abdul Lamin from UNESCO as well, in terms of the two-way communication between decision makers, policy makers and young people, but also Tom has highlighted it in relation to between risk. And Dr. Laura Wright will be also talking about our YAB with Dewey. So do hang on for those sessions. But before we get to there, just in terms of our Rwanda projects, Anna, did we have any reflections or questions for either of the projects or any emerging themes?
There is no question. There is reflection and comments from Richard, who agrees with Tom that young people really are the experts in these areas. This is to run the team, and also we've got some comment and reflection to Kyrgyz team, if I can read it quickly. Jean-Marie said, thanks for the great presentation. It's really wonderful of how arts is being a great tool for youth, empowering, healing and designing and communicating change needed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to all of you for engaging in that way. Okay, let's move on. So we are now introducing our Indonesian projects. Dewey, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for the wonderful presentation. Now, moving forward, we have the new medium grant project in Indonesia. The first one is Beyond Tradition. The partner organization leading this project is Atmajaya Catholic University, and the presenter and the principal investigator for today is Nicholas Indra. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Juhi. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. It was great that on this rainy afternoon in Jakarta, but we could hear stories about projects in other countries. My name is Nicholas Indra Nurpatria, but you can call me Indra. I am the principal investigator from one of the medium grants project from Indonesia. Our research title is Beyond Tradition, Revitalizing the Art of Lenong as a dialogic tool for peace building. Lenong is a Betawi traditional art. Lenong is a theatrical performance that inserts jokes with moral message into the story. Usually in every Lenong performance, there is also traditional Betawi music called Gambang Kromong, rhymes, traditional dances, and Betawi self-defense called Main Pukul. Center for Family Resilience and Development implement this project under the Faculty of Psychology at Atmajaya Catholic University. In implementing this project, CFRD is working with children forums, civil society organization, and art organization in Jakarta. Next slide, please. There are two outcomes in this project. First, we CFRD together with young people will make a learning module about Lenong Betawi that will become the local subject curriculum for secondary school. Local subject is a subject taught in secondary school that is tailored specifically to introduce about the local culture. In Jakarta, of course, this is a Betawi culture. For this, we will work together and advocate for stakeholders and decision makers in Jakarta. The second outcomes, together with young people, we will use Lenong as a medium for dialogue on social issues faced by young people. These two outcomes will be achieved through the three main activities we plan. First, the establishment of advisory team to carry out cooperation and advocacy so that learning modules about Lenong can become local subjects in the curriculum. The second activity is the preparation of learning modules about Lenong that will be adopted as a local subject in the curriculum for secondary school. And the third activity is an offline and online Lenong performance by young people who have studied and practiced Lenong based on the pre-made learning modules. From the previous explanation, we want to emphasize that the art we choose is Lenong, which has the power of dialogue between the performers and the audience during the performance. In this case, in our project, the dialogue takes place is between young people as Lenong performers and policymakers as audience. And they can dialogue about social problems faced by young people. This dialogue or communication structure does not only occur during Lenong performance, but we will be formalized through an advisory team consisting of young peoples, stakeholders, artists, policymakers, and arts and culture teacher associations. Okay, next slide, please. We will be happy if you want to find out more about this Beyond Prediction project. You can please send us an email or follow information about this project through our Twitter and Instagram account. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Back to you, Juhi and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Indra. Indra, it's amazing to hear about the cultural form of Lenong being used with peace building approaches. Okay, so what we'll continue to do is we'll move on to the second Indonesian program. So get ready with any reflections or questions, and then we will continue on with the questions. So I'm just wondering now if my screen has stopped sharing, which I didn't ask it to do, but it looks like it might just have dropped out. So I'm going to try and pull it back in.
Yeah, and Sarah, while you're doing this, can I add the comments from Carla, who want to add some context that Betawi, what was talking about in this presentation, is Jakarta indigenous people.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's great.
Now you're back, yeah.
We're all back. Okay, but that was a rather nice moment to see all of you out there watching. So we can certainly bring that back and drop the slides so that you can feel that connection amongst yourselves. I wonder if it's still raining, Indra, in Jakarta. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so my slide deck at the moment doesn't want to move forward. Let's see if I can bring it back up. I'm just going to drop off again and then try and bring it back so we can hear from our second Indonesian project. Yeah, I think it's got stuck on that. Okay. Let me just come back in and then we should be back up and running. Okay, is that now sharing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I've gone into that view. Let's try and bring it back into from current slide. Okay, wonderful. The suspense of will they, won't they with the slides. Dewey, thank you very much. If you could now introduce our second and final of the medium grant projects before we move in to a different section of the presentation. Thank you, Dewey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. So as mentioned by Sarah, we are at the end of the medium grants project, introducing our new medium grants project. This one's the last. So yeah, from the Indonesia, we have the medium grant project, which is GenPeace. The partner organization leading this is the King's College London, and the presenter and co-I for this project is Randy from the partnering organization Save the Children Indonesia. So over to you, Randy.
Okay, thank you, Juhi and Sarah. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. I am Randian Saputra Dinata. You can call me Randy, Advocacy Coordinator from Save the Children Indonesia and co-investigator for GenPeace project. So on behalf of Dr. Sukanya, in this session, I'd like to share with you about the planning of GenPeace project in Indonesia. So before I share my presentation, I want to share with you Indonesia has the world's fourth largest population after China, India, and USA. And based on children profile of Indonesia 2022, 1/3 of Indonesians' population are children, with a total 79 million children in Indonesia. So improving child participation in Indonesia is a long way for government of Indonesia. Sorry.
Sorry, Randy. I think someone had their microphone unmuted. That's wonderful. I think it's gone now. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Back to you, Randy.
Okay, thank you, Sarah and Juhi. Improving child participation in Indonesia is a long way for government of Indonesia. And this is opportunity to us, non-government organization, university, to improve child participation through amplifying youth voices and children's civic participation in Indonesia. But something special in this project, we are not involving children in adult ways, but we will use social media and arts that are safe and child-friendly. This project is supported by MAP, of course, implemented by King College London and Save the Children Indonesia. We will work closely with Bandung District Government, including District Children Forum and Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, including National Children Forum and Ministry of National Development Planning. This is 1-year project for piloting in one district before we scale up across this project. So we have 3 main interventions to achieve our goals. The first one is workshop or capacity building. We will develop a module on cultural art and digital-based advocacy for children and youth, conduct a workshop to determine the issue for the district children voice, develop art product based on the issue, and then facilitate training on delivering the district children voice through cultural art performance and online talk show or podcast. These activities will contribute to outcome number 1. And the second one is delivering art-based district children voice using cultural arts performance, online talk show or podcast, and exhibition in National Children Days and Musrenbang, or Musrenbang is a development planning meeting at the district level in Indonesia. These activities will contribute to outcome number 2. And then the last main activity regarding policy engagement with local government and national government. For local government, we focus on to get a commitment and support from the local government for our activities. And then for national government, we focused on replication and scaling up our best practice. So this is activities will contribute to outcome number 3. Next slide, please, Sarah. This is our process and art-based methods that will be used. The first process is a preparatory workshop. We will conduct a participatory assessment to identify issue using a problem map. We will also facilitate children to brainstorm their idea regarding cultural art, performance, and digital media product to deliver their issue. Then we will facilitate children to produce art-based output because we will pilot the project in West Java. So based on initial discussion with District Children Forum, they have experience in performing drama musical with traditional bambu angklung. is the traditional music in Indonesia. Developing short movie or output is already done. We will facilitate children. I'd like to thank you to you all for the time and attention today. For more information regarding this project, don't hesitate to email me or Dr. Sukanya. You can follow National Children Forum or Save the Children Instagram. So thank you, Sarah and Juhi. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Randy. That was such a full-packed project, and I think the use of social media alongside traditional art forms is really very interesting. So now is your moment, your time. If you have a burning question in relation to any of our Indonesian projects or a reflection. Anna, do we have anything coming through?
Not at the moment. There is no question, there is no reflection. So if we are back on time, so behind the time, we can probably keep on going.
Yep. Okay, wonderful. There may well be a chance at the end, but also we will be doing a blog post with any reflections that don't get answered. So on we move. So as we have now completed presenting all of our new medium grant projects, we will now move on to thinking a little bit more about our Youth Advisory Board and our monitoring, evaluation and learning processes. So over to you, Juhi.
Thank you, Sarah. Now we have moved to the second we will be introducing our large grant project. Dr. Laura Wright is the co-I of the Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning. She's the lecturer in Childhood Studies, Institute of Education at the University of Edinburgh. And I am the International Youth Advisory Board member for Mobile Arts for Peace. And let's get onto the slide. So yeah, as a part of our MAP project and the large grant process, we have a youth advisory board is comprised of 2 to 5 countries. Currently, we have the youths from Nepal, Indonesia, Kyrgyzstan, and Rwanda, and the age is 16 to 24. We also have adult, and the University of Edinburgh and the University of Northampton team co-host the space, facilitating sessions, and we are all joined by the adult allies who also support interpretation from each of the 4 countries. We support diversity in the recruitment of young people from each area. So this is advisory board.
Great, thank you, Juhi. And it's such a pleasure to see you all today. And as Juhi mentioned, I'm a PI from the Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning Grant in partnership with the University of Northampton team. And we have the great honor of working with the International Youth Advisory alongside all the projects that we've had the chance to see so far today. And really the purpose of this Youth Advisory is to provide a space for young people to influence and lead on the direction of the MAP projects and contribute to the monitoring and evaluation learning of the project, and not just contribute to, but really lead. So in each of the countries, youth advisors are leading monitoring and evaluation learning processes taking place across the projects, and to be able to engage creatively in knowledge sharing and dissemination of findings from the MEL activities. We connect every month, at least on Saturdays, and this ranges from 10 p.m. in Vancouver to 6 a.m. in UK, across to late morning, early afternoon in Indonesia. So we're wide-ranging times and spectrums. I myself am currently in Vancouver, and we share updates and ideas via WhatsApp group and staying connected and learning really. And you'll see here an image of us when we were in Lincoln together, and we're really looking at what everyone wants to bring, what everyone has to bring, such as the vlogs, as you see from Heikel, and what people want to learn from the space. Next slide, please. So as part of our monitoring, evaluation and learning, we have several tools to support the journey. You'll see here we have at front of the baseline, sort of the survey, the start and at the end. And then we have different creative tools such as outcome vision murals, which support us to reflect on what we want to see for the projects, a well-being thermometer check-in, and a river journey at the end to look at how people are thinking of strengths and challenges through imagery from the start to the middle of the end of the project, and other artistic reflections and traveling options that support our monitoring. This also builds upon the many different monitoring and evaluation processes that the teams are already doing, as you saw in across the medium grants. And these are developed through creative processes, getting feedback and learning in partnership with the youth advisory team. Next slide, please. So you'll see here some images. We piloted and practiced river journeys with our youth advisors who were present and when we all met in Lincoln, also with new youth advisors coming on board. So in person and then online in our Saturday meetings, we tested out different tools, got feedback, and then also integrate reflections and ideas into the toolbox itself. So you'll see quotes and images coming from the different pilot examples. We're going to do a bit of a snapshot from Nepal. Juhi and her colleagues were the first youth advisors to pilot the baseline tools. Aurora and Clementine, I think might be on the call, are going to be piloting them with the One Drum project next week. So we'll have more learning then, but I'll pass it over to Juhi.
Thank you, Laura. Nepal is the first youth team to pilot the base tools from the toolbox, and the key strength in this process have been some of the reflections and learning that came out of the process. The images and reflections we have is being integrated into the toolbox, and we have also been able to provide recommendations for the other team around how to interview and build timings, and have a couple of facilitators to carry up with the activities, as sharing facilitation with the peer colleagues and adult colleagues will build the time and support. So this is basically a snapshot from Nepal. Next slide.
Great. So Jean, I wanted to share some top tips that we've been learning so far. And if anyone else into your others is on the call, feel free to jump in. But really highlighting to invest time to build meaningful relationships, looking at regular communication and checking in, not only work. I think Julie's frozen, but she highlighted too, this was also applicable for the country-led YAR process and others, regularly checking in on different things that are happening. Supporting peer-to-peer sharing, leading and learning, for example, the vlog, like how and Indri shared that during the last Saturday session. Be flexible to schedules, recognizing that not everyone's available weekdays, but when works, and what does that look like? Plan for translation interpretation when you're working internationally, and get creative and have fun. And these are some top tips we have to share. And Juhi, did you want to add anything? We may have just lost her. And if we do have time, there's a wee video that our colleague from University of Northampton, Michael, is very creative, these pieces, supported with different voiceovers to help communicate what the survey component is about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura and Juhi, for describing the really interesting co-research, co-youth, co-production process with Armel. We're really excited as it's developing, and the learnings that we're getting as well, we hope to be feeding back out to our wider network, because we know many of you are working in co-production ways. Shall we watch this video? I think we shall. I think we're doing well with time, and it's rather lovely.
First of all, thank you for taking part in the survey about the Mobile Arts for Peace project. The survey will take around 10 minutes to complete, and it's really important in helping us understand the impact of the project on young people and on community stakeholders.
First section will tell you about the project, what it is trying to achieve.
The second section gives an overview of how we manage your data. It is important to remember that it is your choice if you partake in the survey or not. Even if you start, you do not have to answer anything you do not want to. You can leave the survey at any time.
For the questions themselves, first for ask about you, which is who you are, what vocation you are in, and where thousands of countries you're from.
We then ask about your community, peace and peace building, and conflict resolution. We then finish the journey by asking you about your well-being.
If you have any questions, you can speak to your in-country team or contact us at any time at isii-research@northampton.ac.uk.
Once again, thank you for considering taking part in this project.
Wonderful, thank you. So that video was created to support the Youth Advisory Board members as they start the survey process, which the University of Northampton is leading on, and the University of Edinburgh via Laura are leading on the toolbox with all those amazing tools. It would be now really nice to open up to questions. If you would like to, before we do that though, if you would like to see either of the videos we've shown today, I know that the URLs will be dropped into the chat box, so you have an opportunity to come back and rewatch them if for any reason you weren't able to watch them. So those URLs will be in the chat box as well for our videos shared today. But now let's move on. Anna, did we have any questions for Laura or Dewey? Or indeed, if there are any of the Youth Advisory Board members that are out there as well.
There are links to this video, so please go and watch it again, as Sarah said, but there is no questions so far. Vina said it was very interesting animation. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, lovely, thank you. I'm wondering, Laura or Dewey, if you had any final reflection that you would like to share?
No, just thanks everyone, and we're looking forward to being able to share more as time goes on. And if there are any other youth advisors still on, feel free to jump in the chat or speak out as well.
Yeah, great. Do we have any of our other youth advisors on board? If you'd like to just give us a wave and a show, that'd be really nice, so that people can appreciate that you are scattered all over the world. Perhaps not at this moment, but we will definitely at the end be able to see everyone. Okay, so let's move on. Right, that's great. Those are our questions. And so now we're going to move on to a discussion with Dr. Abdul Rahman Lamin, who's a youth development specialist, and with myself. So between us, we will have a discussion. Dewey, would you like to introduce us? Let's keep in the tradition of our format and our program, and then we'll dive right in. Over to you, Dewey. I think Dewey might have a few connection troubles at the moment. So I think we'll move right on. What we're going to do in this section is think around how multilaterals like UNESCO as a type of policy influencing organization can work and support with MAP. So before I invite Dr. Lamin on board, I'm just going to give a very quick overview of how MAP is working with UNESCO. So we're doing this in two main ways. One is that we're spreading and embedding the research findings, and we hope to be filtering that out through thematic focal points at UNESCO, both at national and international levels. So we're really looking for our research to be applied and finding ways that as academics, we can make sure that we are tailoring those responses. And Rich, right at the start, mentioned that we have developed and we're continuing to develop our kind of art policy brief. So how can we combine the value of art in policy influencing? The second area is developing these arts-based methods to generate evidence-based data, and that's really working with youth researchers. So UNESCO, like the MAP project, very interested in finding ways to meaningfully engage with youth researchers and see that as a sharing and learning process between the MAP project and with UNESCO. So what we've done is to help try and synthesize the work that we're doing. We have some key themes and emerging approaches that we've put together in a visual model to really show how we are addressing everyday peace building through the arts. So this is a way of starting to think about our key themes and approaches. So the ways that we are looking to tackle everyday peace building through the arts. The emerging themes that we're doing this through, and you've probably heard these throughout the new medium grant presentations, is many of our projects are advocating for progressive education policy and practice, and that's conveyed in the blue paint splodge in the diagram. Others are looking at tackling child and gender-based violence. I think you'll recall that from some of our Kyrgyz projects. And others in the red splodge are really focused on cultivating well-being and mental health. And that's where our phase 1 Rwanda projects started. So different projects have different combinations of these themes that they are working on everyday peace building through arts with. But also in terms of policy influencing, the fascinating thing that we hope you also find fascinating are our processes. So very much how we are doing our applied research. And there are particular ways, again, that depending on the context of our projects, we are using. So these range from a particular gender inclusion and diversity focus. So you heard in terms of One Girl Drumming, Kiki's project, for example, there's a real focus on trying to change the patriarchal norms around girls and drumming. Others are really championing Indigenous knowledge. For example, we had Lenong coming from one of our projects in Indonesia, and many of them, in fact, all of them are looking at intra, so within and inter, between generational dialogue. So between young people and adult allies, but also between policymakers and researchers. So we're trying to really build a nexus around peace building. And then, of course, you heard that we've working through our Youth Advisory Board and youth researchers to really explore and develop approaches to child and youth-led participatory action research. All of this through a process of applied art and cultural praxis. So that's a way that we are trying to bring together how we can support UNESCO. I would now like to invite Dr. Abdul Lamin from UNESCO, who's a youth development specialist based in the Paris headquarters, to join me. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Abdul, for joining me. So here we'll move into a short dialogue and discussion, and then open it up to the audience in case you have any questions for Abdul or I as well. So first of all, Abdul, welcome. I hope you've been enjoying the presentation so far. I'm really curious to know, based on the presentations, how might these projects contribute towards the work of UNESCO? And if you could reflect in terms of at national levels and international levels, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Can you hear me?
It's wonderful for you to join us. Before we jump in, how's the weather in Paris today? Because I know in Indonesia it's been quite terrible.
It's bright and sunny actually, but you can be deceived. It might be a bit chilly when you get outside, but it's bright and sunny, so that's
bright
good.
and sunny.
That's good. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Glad to
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah.
Over to you in terms of question 1. Thank you, Abdul.
Sure. Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you to colleagues for inviting me to share some reflections. I must first of all congratulate all the teams. I mean, it's been a full course menu. I've been listening to every project and all the dimensions really resonate with what we also try to do here at UNESCO. So I'm really, really gratified to be here and would like to congratulate everybody the research teams, the principal investigators, and of course, the young people. So thank you very much again. Well, with respect to your first question, a couple of things I should say at the outset. I think, and Ananda mentioned this before, and you have also highlighted the partnership between UNESCO and the MAP project in the earlier phase, and what we're trying to do now to revive that partnership moving forward into the next phase. The first thing I should say is that what you're doing in terms of working with young people to produce and build knowledge for policy intervention and ultimately action at the level of states, whether at the national level or sub-national level, resonates with us. In fact, I would say that there are synergies between what you're doing and what we do here in the youth section, which is to work with young people across the globe. I should say that in UNESCO, youth is one of our priorities. It's endorsed by our member states, which essentially means that everything that we do, we have to ensure that there is a youth dimension to that. And so within that context, we have been building a youth as researchers project, which I'm sure you are aware of, which actually came in the aftermath of COVID, when the world was brought to a standstill, and we designed a youth as researchers initiative, reaching out to young people across the globe and working with them to build knowledge on the impact of COVID on them in key thematic areas in terms of their access to education, in terms of their rights being respected, in terms of their access to technology, their health and mental health and well-being, and so forth. And coming out of that, lots of revealing findings were made. And I should mention, though, that the UNESCO Youth as Researchers Initiative on COVID was actually implemented through a partnership with two UNESCO chairs, one in Northern Ireland University in Galloway, and then the Penn State University in the United States. But I think the underpinning, really, I mean, the modus operandi, if you will, was really to give young people a voice. And I think this is where the synergy comes in with what you're seeking to do. Youth-led research is an opportunity to give young people to express themselves. And so I think that needs to be underlined. And the youth as researchers on COVID taught us a lot that we are now working to build and roll out across the globe. So as I speak now, we have Youth as Researchers initiative across various regions, looking at a wide range of subject matters, ranging from peace and security. I note that the MAP project is using arts, to communicate peace, and other aspects of peace. So there's a connection right there. There are youth-led projects looking at the impact of climate change and how it affects young people. So there's also a connection there. Now, in terms of what we have been treated to this morning and the afternoon can contribute towards the work of UNESCO. I think one point I should mention, which came out in almost all of the presentation, it's the policy dimension. I think oftentimes, and this is what we say in UNESCO, when we work with youth, it is for them and with them. And for us, it's not just a slogan. And I can see from your approach and your methodology, it's not a slogan. It means that everything that we do, whether it's designing projects that young people can participate in building that knowledge, it has to be with them from the outset, from the start all the way to the end, you know, the monitoring and evaluation and so forth. So, but the limitation, and we know by working with young people, and I can just see from some of the highlights, you know, whether it was in some of the animations or, you know, reference to some of the films, and even the policy briefs that Richard Heisenberg, I think, was the one who mentioned the policy briefs, and the fact that the policy briefs that were designed by young people was such interactive that, you know, policymakers were willing to listen to them as opposed to the boring ones that, academics and much older people like us would normally try to use to convince young people. So I think what I'm saying in essence is that there is a thread that runs across, and it relates to what we do both at the national and regional level, which is to say that it is not enough for young people to express themselves, in this case through arts and build knowledge, but it is important that we're able to connect that knowledge to the policy development process. This is where UNESCO comes in, because as you know, as an intergovernmental organization, we work with governments on a regular basis across the globe. I should mention, actually, at this point, I was very pleased to note that one of my colleagues in the UNESCO office in Nepal is actually in this conversation. He didn't tell me, I didn't know. And then when I got on board, he said, I'm here. I'm saying, oh, great, fantastic. Because I think what that does is it also gives him a perspective of what has been going on. And I'm sure he will link up with the colleagues. Sabine is his name. I'm sure he knows some of the teams in Nepal, and he can connect at the national level and see how moving forward we can go together, you know, to try to really ensure that this knowledge that is being produced is brought to the attention of policymakers, and ensure that they are able to design interventions, whether it's through policies and programs and projects that respond to the needs of young people. At the international level, again, because we are an international organization, I think one of the leverages that UNESCO has is the convening power. The fact that UNESCO, with more than 193 member states, you know, can convene, and with that convening power gives a wide reach in terms of messages that come especially from young people. So again, you know, I mean, in terms of our partnership with the MAP project, it's my hope that we will be able to work with you guys to take advantage of that leverage. Last point, I come back to the national, you know, level intervention, because UNESCO is part of the UN family, broadly speaking. At the country level, this is key, because it means that we do not only work by ourselves, we work with other UN agencies, which gives an additional advantage. We work in what you call UN country teams. I mean, Sabine is very familiar with what happens in Nepal, and in most UN country teams, there are youth development working groups where ideas are bounced off, initiatives and potential partnerships are brought forward, you know, to make sure that we're able to bring our other UN partners on board to work together. So I think in that respect, there is also something to be said, you know, that by working with UNESCO, it could give this project an opportunity to reach out to the more wider UN community who have their own partners, you know, also at the national level and moving forward. So in a nutshell, you know, I just wanted to share that reflection, but really congratulate you and the youth teams, you know, for what has been an excellent treat this morning and early afternoon for me.
Thank you very much, Abdul, and sharing that the thanks to everyone in our huge extensive network, and you'll see the logos of everyone that's involved at the end, and it's quite impressive. Just very briefly on question 2, because unfortunately we'll soon need to wrap up, but thank you for mentioning the power of UNESCO in terms of convening and working with member states, governments, which will help our projects going forward to identify, coming back to the question we had right at the start, you know, processes of identifying exactly who in the nexus to influence. In terms of convening, the second question, just before we hand over to Sabin from UNESCO Nepal. Namaste. Welcome, greetings. I don't know if you had anything very quick interjection that you would like to say.
just a short one, Sarah. Given the short time, I have been in a previous conversation with Ananda back 1 year back when I was not in UNESCO. With Rajiv sir, so it's a very pleasure to be connected with you again, being in UNESCO. So I look forward to communicate with Abdul and you, and then look forward how we can work together in Nepal as well. So I'm pretty excited with this one. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you for that interjection. That's wonderful. So just in terms of coming back to question 2 and the convening, we're looking forward to creating with UNESCO, Abdul, art-based roundtable discussions that we're looking to develop. But the question really is, as I mentioned earlier, that two-way process of communication. So ensuring the accountability back to the youth researchers that present in their artistic forms, their policy briefs or workshops, or moving theatres in the case of visualizing peace in Rwanda. How do you think that level of getting accountability and feedback and delivery of some of the asks from identified policymakers might happen?
Well, I mean, thank you very much for that question. You know, I mean, I think it's obvious, the essence of giving young people a voice is to ensure that they are able to communicate, their perspective on the issues. And in this case, using the arts, which is I must say quite unique, mechanism really that you're using, because there is a sense in which arts can be used for entertainment and education. Entertainment. I mean, those of you who are specialists in that area would know, what I'm alluding to. But not only to communicate, in a one-way street, but to get feedback from that communication, hence, a two-way communication. I know that through the, in the aftermath of the first phase of the project, you're working now to organize policy dialogues at the national level, which will bring, policymakers in contact with the young people. There are also UNESCO, as you know, has launched a new initiative on arts education, and there is an international conference which is coming up in December in the United Arab Emirates, which could be another platform, to showcase this. I think it is using arts as a tool to communicate, all of these messages that young people really reflective of the times in which we live in, but also the ingenuity of young people to pass on messages in a way that we ordinarily would not think about. Normally, when youth as researchers, and I must note that when I listen to the presentations, the projects in the way they have been conceptualized and designed, and the methodologies and the kind of institutional arrangements that have been made, it's quite rigorous. It's really quite rigorous, and it's very promising in terms of trying to reach the ultimate results that you're trying to achieve. So I think that from an accountability point of view, because you are academics, you know this very well. Quality control is one, way in which we try to hold ourselves accountable and others. So that when we engage in, this kind of these policy exchanges, with people who are supposed to make decisions, and respond to what the young people are bringing to the table, it is not just about doing it for the sake of it. It's actually something that tried and tested, so in terms of I think you have put in place mechanisms that really ensure that the accountability is embedded, very strongly in terms of what you're trying to produce. So I would say that again, in summary, I think UNESCO would like to, continue to, this partnership at the level of really what is happening, on the ground. Samin came in from, I was talking to Ananda yesterday, I think it was about this, policy dialogues, and I mentioned the poll, and I even mentioned Samin. I didn't know he was going to be there, so already you can already see that, we, in terms of our own interest and commitment, it's already beginning to show, and that conversation we start and we move on. In Rwanda also, we have an office there in Nairobi, which covers Rwanda. So we'll try to bring colleagues in to be able to work together to amplify what is being done, but to also reinforce what we are doing here through the Youth as Researchers Initiative.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And it's wonderful to hear UNESCO supporting the value of arts in terms of proposing alternatives to the world we live in. So that's a space that MAP is very happy to promote and collaborate on. So what we'll do at this point, as we're starting to run over time, is we'll move on and we'll hand over to Ananda, our principal investigator, the person who has brought us all together, Professor Ananda Breed. If you would like to come on screen so we can see you and acknowledge you and appreciate you. If you would like to take on some closing remarks, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Ananda. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And what an absolute celebration today has been of such fantastic work. And it just feels like a layering of findings and methods and collaboration and teamwork. So thank you all so much for creating such a beautiful network and so many new kinds of communications and approaches that maybe we wouldn't have been able to develop on our own. It's really taken each and every one of you and all our young people, our educators, our artists, our civil society workers, our decision makers, and our researchers. So thank you so much. As we usually do in MAP, we're giving flowers of appreciation to each and every one of you and all of our attendees as well. Just to note, in terms of ways to connect, we have numerous webinars coming up. We have also commissioned some additional sub-projects, and we'll have some webinars to introduce those projects. We are launching our new website. In the website, you'll see that you can sign up to receive announcements and to receive a forthcoming newsletter. We will create a blog post that addresses any questions that we haven't been able to address in our webinar today. And we also have a new podcast series. And Kula, I don't know if you want to just say a word or two about that.
Just to say, stay tuned, really, because it's something very exciting that is going to happen as part of the MAP project. And we hope that we will be able to launch this in a few months. And we really look forward to working with this, really, the range of partners and networks that we have created to actually share our learnings and our findings through the MAP project.
Thank you so much. And a special thanks to Juhi for your beautiful facilitation and warm hosting, to Sarah, who's worked so hard at developing all the materials today and the organization of the event alongside Amy. So Sarah's our PDRA, Amy's our project manager. big flowers for all of the work that's gone into today. To Kula and Anna for all the behind the scenes support in today's event, and our translators. As you've seen, we're working across a lot of countries and languages, and we couldn't do it without our translators as well. So huge thanks for all the behind the scenes work that's being done as well. Also, of course, big, huge thanks to our medium and large grant holders and preparing your presentation and delivering the fantastic projects that are now off and running, and our youth advisory board members. So again, huge thanks to all of you, and we look forward to being able to see you again at future events. So back to you, Sarah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ananda. This is the point when we say goodbye in this little map bubble space that we've all participated in. And as Ananda said, really contributed in so many different ways. I would also just like to thank Vina, who has helped us with a lot of the graphics that you will have seen in diagrams and throughout the presentations. So we really are a huge network, mapped network. And we look forward to sharing our learnings as we move forward. So I think there's nothing else to say today apart from goodbye. I'm going to stop sharing screen so that we can perhaps, if you want to see now, some of the different people that have joined from all over the world, and we might do a last flowers or a wave and say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone, bye. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye, bye, bye. Goodbye.
Bye. Nice.
Bye. Thank you very much. Say bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you so much. Baik, kasih na semua.
Buka.
Thank you.
Kotaknya bagi dong.
Breaking fast day in Indonesia.
Thank you.
Udah beda, dia nggak jatuh, lihat ke belakang. Udah jatuh, deh.